Welcome to Q Recaps. The story unfolded in a tranquil town, where a strange storm occurred in the sky. A massive dark cloud encircled a radiant ring, captivating the locals' attention. Today we will recap the story of the movie War of the Worlds from 2005. Soon after, lightning struck multiple times into the middle of a nearby intersection, causing an EMP that instantly fried almost all electronic devices, and cars on the street broke down. Even more peculiar, dozens of lightning strikes hit the same spot, creating a massive hole in the ground in front of the church. Ray quickly rushed to investigate and discovered a rock that felt ice cold to the touch. Suddenly, the ground began to tremble and cracks started to spread, slowly moving towards the nearby buildings. Two policemen attempted to disperse the curious crowd, but their efforts were in vain. As the vibrations intensified, the walls of the church crumbled and the roof of the building collapsed. A massive tripod war machine emerged from the ground and used powerful energy weapons to destroy the area, disintegrating most of the witnesses into gray ash. Finally realizing the danger, people frantically tried to flee, but no one could outrun death as the laser strikes hit them and turned them to ash. Realizing the imminent danger, Ray ran for his life, the world behind him crumbling to rubble. He finally returned home, covered in dust. His children were oblivious to the chaos outside. However, the suddenness of the disaster made it difficult for Ray to explain the situation, so he quickly instructed them to pack their bags and leave town. Luckily, they stumbled upon a fixed car on the street, hoping to escape with their neighbors. Tragically, the tripod reappeared and their neighbors were reduced to ash by the laser's ferocity. As the tripod's relentless firepower engulfed the world, it felt like the end of days. The three survivors drove to Ray's wife's empty home in suburban New Jersey to take refuge, but found no one there. As a precaution, they took shelter in the gym. In the dead of night, they heard a strange roaring noise, accompanied by lasers, lightning, and piercing sounds. Sensing danger, Ray immediately instructed his children to run to the basement. Suddenly, a violent explosion tore through the house. By daybreak, they discovered the cause of the previous night's strange events. A Boeing 747 had crashed into the neighborhood, with its wreckage scattered all around. Ray met a wandering TV news team scavenging the wreckage for food, wherein a correspondent revealed that tripods had attacked major cities around the world, and that they had force shields that protected them from humanity's defenses. She added that the tripod's pilots traveled to Earth within the lightning storms to enter their machines, which were apparently buried underground for thousands of years. Just as they were wrapping up their discussion, they heard another ominous sound emanating from the distance, prompting them to leave right away. Ray took the children to their grandmother's house, following the river and resting along the way. While his daughter went to the riverbank for a restroom break, she witnessed a horrifying sight. The river was filled with corpses. She was terrified. Ray arrived just in time to rescue her. As night fell, refugees struggled to carry their belongings forward. As Ray drove into the crowd, but a desperate mob swarms around their vehicle, forcing them to abandon it. They smashed the windows and even climbed onto the roof to obstruct it. In the face of disaster, the baseness of human nature was laid bare. To ensure the safety of his children, Ray had to abandon the car and seek shelter at a nearby restaurant. The man who had just taken the car was fatally shot, and the next person to attempt to seize the vehicle might meet a similar fate. The people had descended into madness. Ray had no other option but to follow the crowd to the pier with his children. Everyone was gripped by an apocalyptic fear as they witnessed a flaming train hurtling by. Fortunately, a ship was available where people queued up, awaiting rescue. Suddenly, the birds in the forest were startled and scattered. When people turned around, they saw a tripod on the mountaintop overlooking the pier. The captain quickly ordered the drawbridge to be raised and Ray's family managed to squeeze on board. Thinking they were out of harm's way, they soon found themselves facing a massive vortex that appeared out of nowhere. The tripod emerged from the depths of the ocean, capsized the ship, leaving several people struggling to stay afloat. Ray had no choice but to swim desperately to the shore with his daughter, as the sea echoed with the terrified cries of humanity. In the blink of an eye, the dense crowd was like lambs to the slaughter, being pursued by the tripods with no means of escape. The three eventually made their escape, traversing through the forest as countless fragments of clothing rained down from the sky. The survivors were left scattered, with nowhere to call home. At daybreak, the sound of gunfire echoed across the mountain, accompanied by the arrival of a large number of troops and fighter jets soaring overhead. People rushed to the battlefield, including Ray's son, who was determined to fight back against the extraterrestrials despite his father's desperate attempts to stop him. As intense explosions rocked the area, flames lit up the entire landscape, reducing the war machines to rubble in seconds. It was apparent that the human race stood no chance against the tripods. Survivors fled while the military continued to fire at the mechs, but their protective shields were impenetrable. In the chaos, Ray and his daughter sought refuge in an old man's basement. The man introduced himself as Andy, a former banker who had been falsely convicted of murdering his wife and sentenced to life in Shawshank prison. He had only just escaped when the aliens invaded. He was convinced that the aliens were out to destroy all of humanity and expressed a desire to fight alongside Ray. It was clear that the old man had been traumatized and was suffering from delusions. Suddenly, the ground began to shake violently as the tripod swept through the area. A tentacle reached into the basement, searching for prey. Ray and the others quickly took cover behind a wall, while the old man grabbed an axe from the wall, intending to chop the tentacle in half. Ray managed to stop him just in the nick of time, thereby saving their lives. As the tentacle drew nearer, the old man accidentally made a noise. Ray quickly thought on his feet and grabbed a mirror to block the hole. The tripod camera scrutinized the mirror but didn't pick up anything unusual and ready to retreat. But Ray's daughter inadvertently gave away their position by sticking her foot out from behind the mirror. By the time the camera returned, they had already scurried away to another hiding spot. It eventually retreated from the basement. Unfortunately, their relief was short-lived as a few more aliens appeared in the room. The dim lighting made it hard for the aliens to spot Ray and his group at first. These beings had slim necks, bulbous heads, and large eyes, and were intrigued by everything about Earth. The alien's sudden appearance triggered the old man once again, causing him to train his gun on them. Ray intervened to prevent any needless violence. As the tripods called for their departure, the aliens finally vacated the basement. At that moment, Ray was taken aback to discover red-colored vegetation sprouting in the basement. As he reached out to touch them, he realized they were in fact human blood. Peering out the window, he bore witness to an even more horrifying sight. The tripods not only slaughtered humans but also harvested human blood and tissue to fertilize the alien vegetation. After a grueling night, Ray and his daughter could finally catch their breath, but their moment of peace was short-lived. Another tripod camera crept into the basement, jolting Ray awake by his daughter's piercing scream. He swiftly grabbed an axe and mercilessly hacked off the tentacle. But his daughter had already fled in fear. By the time Ray caught up, she was nowhere to be found. The scene before him resembled a red inferno. The entire planet was blanketed in red vines. Despite the peril, Ray bellowed for his daughter, but this only drew the attention of the tripod. He hastily sought refuge in an abandoned car, but the tripod lifted it up and hurled it to the ground. Amidst the chaos, Ray caught sight of his daughter standing nearby, but by the time he reached her, the alien had already snatched her away. In a burst of urgency, Ray sprinted back to the military vehicle, grabbed 2 grenades, and threw them at the tripod, but they failed to break its protective shield. He was captured by a tripod and imprisoned in a cage teeming with humans, who had become the monster's energy source. Periodically, the tripod would abduct someone, draining their blood for power. As Ray's daughter was on the verge of being taken, he protected her with his body, only to be dragged into the tripod's interior. This time, no one was willing to just stand by. United in their efforts, they rescued Ray, who seized the opportunity to toss a grenade inside the tripod. Following a series of fierce explosions, the tripod spewed a gush of blood and crumpled to the ground, defeated. Everyone had finally escaped the nightmare. At this juncture, the world seemed to be in a post-apocalyptic state. After an arduous journey, the duo finally reached Boston, where red vines had completely engulfed the city. Oddly, these vines appeared to be slowly withering away. Not far from a nearby building, a tripod stood immobile. Had the humans defeated them? A soldier informed Ray that the tripods had abruptly lost power. Soon after, another tripod emerged, staggering as if intoxicated, with a flock of birds perched atop its head. This indicated that the tripod's protective shield had dissipated. Ray relayed this peculiar discovery to the soldiers, who wasted no time in opening fire on the tripod. Devoid of its shield, the tripod couldn't withstand the onslaught of bullets and crumbled under the soldiers' relentless attack. The soldiers rapidly encircled the faltering tripod, and the barely alive alien inside attempted to crawl out, but ultimately succumbed and collapsed. In the end, Ray successfully reunited his daughter with her grandmother. To their delight, his son was also found safe and sound, leading to a warm embrace between father and son. So, what caused the aliens' sudden downfall? It turned out that their undoing was not advanced human weaponry, but rather the omnipresent microorganisms on Earth. Through tens of thousands of years of resistance, humanity had developed immunity to these bacteria. However, for the aliens, these microorganisms proved to be their most lethal threat. What do you think of this movie? If you enjoy this video, please give it a like and subscribe. Thanks for watching.